approaches. Blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, they can't hold a flame against you, ay. Blow the whistle, blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, got the game, it ain't no issue, yeah. Blowing the whistle, I had enough with you, the championship, it is gone. Ain't listen to you, I can't get.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into the Fantasy Coaches Podcast, guys. I am your host, as always, guys, Coach Steve. We have another fantastic episode for you guys today. We are talking early summer ADPs, looking at what ADP is right now as we get ready for the redraft season ahead of us, because and it's starting already. You know, I basically say that when the Scott Fish Bowl happens, that's when redraft season really gets going, and it's already begun. So we're going to look at some ADP, take a look at some players here. There's some players we like, some players we think might be rising or falling, and maybe a player or two that we dislike at ADP right now. If you don't know what ADP is, it's just average draft position, basically where players are going on average right now in drafts. And mostly just, you know, likely probably more of like a 1 QB kind of league situation when you think of ADP here. It's not based off Superflex or anything like that, because obviously that'd be a dramatically different for the fantasy space. But of course, we have Coach Tyler back on the show after missing the last few weeks. Coach Tyler, what's going on, man?
What's up, guys? Glad to be back.
Yeah, glad to have you back here. Hey, Albert, how are you? The other Coach Steve, or Coach ST, I forget. We came up with a nickname for Steve. I forget what it is already, but he can't make it on the show tonight. He had some technical difficulties with his computer, but hopefully he can figure those out by the time we get into next week. So, like I said, guys, we are talking ADP right now. We're going to go through some players news-wise. There's really not too much going on right now. It's the quiet time of the offseason. The break between mini camp and training camp, and that's really nothing going on. I wish there were some trades like the Brandon Ayuk situation that's lingering out there, but for now we have nothing news-wise. So let's just get into today's show here. It's going to be a nice, quickly, easy show. So we're going to start with ADPs we like right now. And Tyler, I know we're going to go back and forth between ours, and I know there's one guy you really like. We've been talking about him all off season right now. It's a tight end. So who is your first player you like at ADP right now?
Yeah, my first ADP I like is going to be Kyle Pitts. We use the Fantasy Pros ADP right now. I think it said it pulled from 3 different sources, so I guess it's like ESPN, Sleeper, Yahoo. But Kyle Pitts coming in at tight end 6. That's number 61 overall. So right at that, 5th, 6th round turn. Kyle Pitts is one of those guys that obviously there's a lot of hype around him because of, new coaching. Arthur Smith is finally gone. He got Kirk Cousins, who loves his tight ends, which we saw with TJ Hawkinson. But the biggest thing I feel about Kyle Pitts is at tight end 6, we're seeing him start to fall out of kind of that elite tier. Last year he was going tight end 2, 3-ish range because everyone was so excited coming off his rookie year, what he could be. That was 2 years ago. But this past year, in the anger that everyone had towards Arthur Smith, Kyle Pitts still found a way to end up as the 14th overall tight end and half PPR leagues. 53 receptions, 667 yards, not the greatest quarterback play, not the greatest offense overall. And so I feel like this range where you're getting him, obviously there's Sam Laporta before him. There's Travis Kelce. There's Trey McBride, Mark Andrews, and Dalton Kincaid. And then we get down to Kyle Pitts. And if you want to take a shot at those upper echelon guys who are going, look, Sam Laporta is going 25th overall in this ADP that we have. So he's going right at the end of the 2nd round, early 3rd round. I love tight ends. If you've watched the show and heard me talk about players, I love tight ends.
It's fair.
I'm not going to take one that early unless it's a, Travis Kelce a couple years ago, whenever you just know that he's going to be better than most receivers that you have, right? And I think that the good thing about all the tight ends that have come onto the scene is we get ADPs like this, where Kyle Pitts starts to fall down into that, 5th, 6th round turn. So you're getting, you take 2 running backs, 2 receivers, and then you're getting a tight end that has the chance to be, a top 3 tight end, if not possibly challenged for the number 1 overall tight end this season. Right. So it's when you're looking at roster construction, when you're looking at ADP, I like the idea of, even if I go receiver heavy and I go 3 receivers and a running back and I'm taking Kyle Pitts, I'm getting a positional advantage in my draft that some people might not have, or they're paying too much for, and I get to scoop up the benefits in either receivers or running backs or quarterbacks or whatever it may be. But Kyle Pitts at tight end 6, I think he can easily meet that if Kirk Cousins comes back and is healthy and the offense runs like literally everyone and their mother thinks it will.
Yeah, no, I like Kyle Pitts. That's a solid range for him at ADP currently right now. I mean, I think what you're really looking at is just like who's going before him. And for me, that what makes the biggest difference. It's just like there's a lot of guys going in round 2, 3, and 4, and then you're looking at Kyle Pitts as the beginning of round 6. Like that's something I want in a 12-man league. Like I'm okay, like let me grab the players I want, let those guys go off the board, and then take Kyle Pitts because the upside is there. I mean, he's already shown us his ability to put up big yardage. But now he's got the quarterback and Kirk Cousins to be able to hopefully bring it all together for us in fantasy. A guy who, had, not so great red zone looks. Well, TJ Hawkinson in the last season and a half with Kirk Cousins has gotten a lot of looks at the red zone here. So Kirk Cousins obviously looks for his tight end way too often in that red zone situations, which will give Kyle Pitts a big opportunity to hopefully score more than like a few touchdowns that he's been used to for God knows the last 3 years now. So, that round 6 range there, player 61 overall, great value for Kyle Pitts right now at ADP. My first player I like at ADP value is Brian Robinson Jr., running back for the Washington Commanders right now. RB34 right now, 105 overall. So you're looking at, that 9-10 range for Brian Robinson Jr. And the more and more I dig into Brian Robinson Jr., it's just such a steal right now at ADP. It's just a good value for a guy who, yes, he's going to split time with Austin Eckler. Believe me, understand that. But Austin Eckler is not the same guy he was a few years ago. He's not going to be a guy that's going to command the workload that he once had in 21, 22, that range there. Brian Robinson Jr. is the more prototypical back that Kingsbury likes for his offense, the offensive coordinator. Just a bigger back that can do the work there in the offense there. And we saw with his offense back in Arizona when he had James Conner and Kenyon Drake, our starting RB scores a lot of touchdowns, at least 7 rushing touchdowns for the starting running back for the Arizona Cardinals under Cliff Kingsbury back there in Arizona. So Brian Robinson has a big opportunity to be used in the red zone as that bigger back to just kind of pound the ball in when they have that rookie quarterback there, because unfortunately Jaden Daniels is really shouldn't be taking those rushing, carries inside the 10-yard line. And he's a little small for that usage. So Brian Robinson sitting here at this range, I mean, you're getting a guy who I think has the upside to still be a high-end RB2. But again, he fell because Austin Eckler got signed to the team here. And I don't think that Robinson's value really dictated having a huge target share, even though he had a nice bump last year. But I really think it will come down to the red zone opportunity. And I really do believe that Brian Robinson Jr. will get that look there. And again, 105 overall, a guy I think that has RB2 upside still in that range. Solid ADP right there for him.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Brian Robinson Jr., especially at price. There's really kind of 2 camps when it comes to this Washington backfield. And it's either Austin Eckler is a dead asset and he's just there because they wanted another name in the running back room, or Austin Eckler is going to have some career resurgence with Washington. He's going to be great. I, along with a lot of people that I know, fall on that first camp. And so I look at Brian Robinson and like you said, he's most likely going to fetch RB2 numbers, and you're getting him 10 spots below the lowest RB2 position to finish in. Like, I'm perfectly happy taking at worst an RB24 and RB34. It's those little values that you can find that can make or break a draft. And obviously what you do in season, see what happens with that. But Brian Robinson Jr. at price, I love it here.
It's definitely worth the price if you're playing that 0 RB strategy where maybe you want 1 RB early or hero RB, and then get a guy like Brian Robinson in round 9. Like, give me him as my RB2 for right now, because I think there's potential upside for him. So, all right, Tyler, let's go back to you for another ADP that you like, and it's a running back this time. So who's that running back that you like at ADP right now?
Yeah, it's actually a running back that is going later than Brian Robinson Jr. That's going to be Jerome Ford, who's at running back 39, number 119 overall. So right there, right at the 10th round. And this is sort of a precautionary pick right here, right? Because obviously when we think of Browns running backs, we think of Nick Chubb. And we know that he got injured last year. And everyone's like, oh, torn ACL, knee injury, he'll be back in a year, he'll be fine. It's July 1st, and I haven't heard a timetable for Nick Chubb to come back.
Have not.
I have seen that he's, quote, progressing well through his rehab, but we don't know if his rehab is a 9-10 month rehab or if it's like a 24-month rehab. We've been given no timetable on that. And, I want to say we're exactly a month out from the first preseason game with the Hall of Fame game between the Texans and the Bears. We're a month out from actual football being played on a field, and we don't know when Nick Chubb is going to come back. And so when I look at the Cleveland backfield, I see an opportunity to play it safe at a great cost. Right? If you're going 0 RB, hero RB, whatever it is, Jerome Ford's a great spot for you to be at, right? Because last year, after taking over for Nick Chubb, Jerome Ford ended up, full season scale, half PPR scoring as the number 17 running back. If you're telling me I can get the number 17 running back at running back 39 price, I love that, right? Now, obviously, I don't think he's going to immediately replicate what he did, but Nick Chubb has no timetable, which makes me think that he is not anywhere near going through contact. And even once he gets to that point, whether it's, week 3, week 4, if we have to wait till week 9, or he's just coming back for playoffs, I don't think they're going to rush him back onto the field. That was a catastrophic knee injury. I don't want him to make any kind of cut that he doesn't have to make. And so I really like Jerome Ford here at this price. At this point, depending on how your league is set up, this is either, a last flex spot or you're working on your bench at this point, and getting a guy that can be, has proven to be a high-end RB2 if he has the touches, and most likely will have the bulk of the touches this year, just playing off of what we know and especially what we don't know. I love Jerome Ford at a running back 39 price.
Yeah, no, I like Jerome Ford a lot. He was big for me last year, and you're right. We don't know what's going on with this Browns backfield right now. They did sign Deontay Foreman, which kind of does scare me a little bit with that backfield and how they plan on operating, because wherever Deontay Foreman goes, he just seems to be able to find himself a starting role at some point the last few seasons here now. So it concerns me a little bit, but yeah, the value is solid. It's good ADP value. You can't be wrong for a guy who could easily start the first 4 games for you. If there's a good chance that Nick Chubb ends up on the pump list for the first 4 weeks of the season and allows Jerome Ford to be able to, do some work as the starting running back here. Because we saw at times, when he's giving the workload, Jerome Ford can be a suitable RB2 in fantasy. I don't know if the upside, especially over there, like a guy like I think like Brian Robinson is. But in that later round, again, you're looking at, round 11, round 12 for Jerome Ford, that a player that has starting potential. And we don't know if Nick Chubb's ever going to come back and be his full self, or if they plan on, leaning him in a little bit or waiting until late in the season when they are in playoff contention and they need a guy like Nick Chubb at that point to really start getting things going here. They might use Jerome Ford early, giving him that workload there. He has a decent pass catching role to his game. So yeah, I like that. It's not a bad one. I think Jerome Ford is good ADP right now. All right. So my ADP that I like next here, my second one, is Joshua Palmer, wide receiver, 55, 129 overall. I think still the presumed wide receiver one for this Chargers team here now. Now, I get everyone's in love with Ladd McConkey, and we're going to talk about him, I think, maybe in a bit, hint. But when I'm looking at my wide receivers for this team is that Justin Herbert is a star, and he's going to throw the ball a decent amount still, whether or not they're going to run ball first and whatnot. But Joshua Palmer, he's shown it on the field. He's shown that he can be productive. He's had really good games when guys like Keenan Allen or Michael Williams were out of the lineups the last year or two now. Like Joshua Palmer has shown us that he can produce as the wide receiver one. He went through a really solid stretch when Mike Williams went down and before he went down at some point that, he's able to produce solid flex wide receiver value for us in fantasy football. And again, you're getting him at 129. I mean, that's past what Jerome Ford is. You're looking at, around 12, 13, that 11 or 12 range there still actually that you should want to get a guy that has that, I think, upside in the offense here because we don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, Ladd McConkey looks great right now without the pads on. Let's get the pads on and see how things change a little bit there. And I feel like I'm blowing up Tyler's spot a little bit, but, we've seen Joshua Palmer in real football action. We've seen him on the field with Justin Herbert. It's not like he's new to this team, doesn't know what's going on. He has somewhat of a connection with him from these past few seasons being with the Chargers here. So Joshua Palmer sitting here at 55, 129 overall, it's good value. And it's a guy that you can use as your wide receiver for and hope that he can rise into a weekly flex play for your fantasy team.
Yeah, no, definitely. We will talk about Ladd McConkey in a second. But at this price, if Joshua Palmer is the guy you think is going to be the wide receiver one for the Chargers, go draft all the Joshua Palmer you want, right? When we talk about our construction, right? You said he's going to be your wide receiver 4. Depending on how you draft your team, at this point, he might even be like your wide receiver 5 or 6. And getting a guy that could be the number one receiver tied to Justin Herbert, even though it's not going to be as pass happy of a team as we've seen in the past. This running back room doesn't really excite me for the guys that they have in there in terms of week-to-week production. They might just be cycling through guys and see, play the hot hand like they did when Roman was with the Ravens. But they're going to have to throw the ball eventually, right? I foresee a lot of third and medium or third and longs, depending on what the running game looks like. But if Josh Palmer's your guy in this offense, go get him, right? Wide receiver 55, I'm going to love that price, especially if he turns into anything wide receiver 54 and above.
That is true. Again, there was a 4-game stretch last year where he had 8 or more fantasy points, in between, him going down a few games later and when Mike Williams went out week 2. So there's potential for him still to produce. I don't think it's any clear cut that anyone's a true wide receiver 1 yet. And again, you're going to get Joshua Palmer almost 30 picks later than the guy we're going to talk about here in a second. So that's why I like Joshua Palmer right now. I think the ADP is really good. So the one guy, we're going to go to the next one. One gut player whose ADP you expect to rise, Tyler. And again, it's a wide receiver who I've been hinting at for this last segment here. Who is that player that you expect to rise in ADP?
The real wide receiver one for the Chargers, Mr. Ladd McConkey, coming in at wide receiver 43, number 102 overall. Like we said, there's just a whole bunch of variance in what this offense is going to look like. And even if it's run first, there's not necessarily an established wide receiver one, right? Josh Palmer's shown flashes in the past. Quentin Johnson, he's on the roster. Ladd McConkey is a guy that they spent pretty decent capital on to bring in. He's a receiver that had success at Georgia. He wasn't, a game breaker receiver, but you stick him in the slot and let that guy go to work. And I think that he has the chance to be the guy coming out of camp as we get closer and closer to your draft season. Once they put the pads on, I think he's still going to be a little shifty. And so I think we're going to get some videos of Ladd McConkey coming out and lighting up some safeties, lighting up some linebackers coming out of the slot, and his ADP is going to rise. Now, I don't know exactly how high it's going to rise. I don't know how much I would want it to rise because I really like him at this spot. But he's a guy that I foresee being the one in this offense. I see him kind of taking on that Roman Wilson role for Michigan, and I think that he is going to be set up for success, especially with how this offense presumably plans to run. And I think it just will be perfect for him just going up the seam every third down and 6 and just pulling in a nice little 12-yard reception.
I like it. Actually, I don't like it. Actually, I'm lying to you. Yeah, I like Ladd McConkey coming out. I was someone who I drafted a lot in my rookie draft, especially in that late half, early second round pick there. There's great things about him that you have to like, and his ability on the field here that, he showed glimpses of in college at times here. And now obviously you pair him up with Justin Herbert, who everyone seems to obviously think is a franchise quarterback, which he is obviously. But again, like we mentioned before when we were talking about Joshua Palmer, is there a true wide receiver one on the team currently at this moment? Probably not. They're going to find out that at camp and see who ends up being Justin Herbert's favorite target overall. And definitely reports of hearing that him and McConkey are gaining that chemistry. But that's what they're supposed to be doing. Like, they're supposed to be gaining that chemistry. They're supposed to be getting in extra work because Joshua Palmer already has that connection with Justin Herbert. But Ladd McConkey needs to get that connection going. So he's gaining that. That's exactly what the point is. But yeah, I do expect him to rise because people love rookies and people love hearing things. And Ladd McConkey is the kind of guy that you could find at camp and see him throw up the highlight reels with his catches and make some crazy, spectacular catches, which is going to raise his ADP up. People are going to like it. Now, should his ADP rise? You're looking at it, could he go over Worthy, Christian Watson, Jordan Addison, Rishi Rice? His potential for him to move up past them, absolutely. Do I want him over those guys? That's still to be determined. But he's definitely a guy with name value who's attached to an offense that doesn't have a true wide receiver one. That, yeah, I can see absolutely rising in the next month, right, before the training camps get here. So I'm going to stick with this rookie fever, obviously, because I do believe rookie fever exists in fantasy football, and people are going to continue to do this. And one guy that's going to rise, I think, is Brock Bowers. And Brock Bowers was a guy who, obviously got drafted very high in the NFL draft here. Went to the Raiders here, who a landing spot we did not like, and a lot of people probably didn't like me. But Brock Bowers is a talent. He's a game changer at the position here. A guy that, we've been talking about these young tight ends that are coming in the league here who are making the game and the position different. Brock Bowers is going to do that at some point. Now, do I believe it's his rookie year? Probably not. But you're going to see him on the field in training camp. You're going to see these plays that they have set up for him in practice that people are going to fall in love with, because people fall in love with practice and hype videos and highlight reels. And that's going to happen here. And a guy like Brock Bowers is a tremendous, tremendous weapon. But remember who's around him. You have Devontae Adams, who is a target hog, who I think will still be a target hog. You have Jacoby Myers, who's a solid 2 on the team here. He's going to split time with Micah Mayer, who was an overall solid tight end coming out. And then Michael Gallup's there too. You can call him up there. But in the quarterback situations is a question mark. Are they going to be able to get the ball to Brock Bowers very well? Gardner Minshew's really not been a player that's really thrived with his tight ends over his career. Aiden O'Connell really didn't look at but Michael Mayer all that much as a rookie. Rookies still need time to develop and learn. Whether or not we saw some great rookies last year, it's not a trend that happens so frequently every single year. But he's going to rise. And that's the big thing to know about it, is that his ADP from 99 overall to from tight end 11, can he jump David Njoku, Jake Ferguson? Yeah, pretty easily. Could you make an argument for George Kittle? Probably not as much, but there's potential there. He could go up as much as tight end 9 and jump maybe a round and a half right here. And I think he has that ability to jump, because what they're going to show him in practice and what they're going to show on the field with him on it, it's going to be amazing to watch. But it may not be just because it's a rise does not mean it's a good thing for your drafts, because the players like Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey, you don't want them rising up the board here, and that's going to inflate their values and going to make them not worthy as much as drafting. So that's why I have Brock Bowers as a rising right now.
Yeah, when I was going through and deciding on my guys, it was between Ladd McConkey and Brock Bowers. So I very much agree with just everything you said. Yeah, and there's definitely some ability for him to move up the tight end range. everything that came out at draft time was saying that, he's the best tight end prospect we've seen since name a good tight end prospect, right? He's supposed to be this
Vernon
great.
Davis.
Yeah, he's supposed to be this amazing athlete, and obviously he was at Georgia, got hampered by injuries a little bit. But he's going into a team with receivers that are capable, but we're looking at a back end of the career Devontae Adams and a Jacoby Myers who, in my opinion, just finally broke out this past season. Oh my gosh, the sky's the limit. That's the phrase I was looking for. The sky is the limit. Yeah. He's just so good. I can't even think straight.
That's okay.
The sky is the limit for Brock Bowers. And there's definitely those names around him. He definitely could outplay them. That rookie hype could get big on him just because of, one, rookie hype, but two, Njoku, a lot of his success last year came when he was playing with Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco's not their starting quarterback anymore, right?
That's fair.
He could at least jump one spot just off that fact if whoever they put behind center can throw him the ball straight. I agree with this totally. I think he will rise. I don't think it's going to be a rise that would make me want to buy him at cost.
No.
But I think he is going to be a riser coming into draft season once we get some deeper ADP.
Agreed. All right, so let's get away from a player you expect to rise and a player's ADP you expect to fall. Players who maybe for the best for us that they fall, but it could mean bad things for them if their ADP is falling. So, Tyler, you have a running back on the list here that you believe is going to fall in ADP from now until August 1st. So who's that player?
Yeah, if you listen to me talk, there's three for sure things in life. There's death, there's taxes, and there's the fact that I'm going to hate on Kyron Williams anytime I get the chance. My follower is going to be Kyron Williams. He's sitting at RB7 right now, 17th overall. So going into that early second round. And just constantly, I don't understand why he's this high. Obviously, I understand that he's a running back that had the workhorse role last year in a Sean McVay offense. But like I've talked about constantly, the workhorse in a Sean McVay offense very rarely repeats that role. And so I just look at it. I feel like the price is way too high. And since Blake Corum got there, McVay has just talked about how much he loved him, right? How much he's handled the process well, how well he does in practice, how he understands the mental side of the game very well, how mature he is for running back coming in, even though he's 24 years old. So he hopefully should be mature going to the NFL. But I just don't think that Kyron's going to have this role to the fullest extent like he did last year. And I think that that's going to eat at his possibility to be the RB7 on the season or to eclipse that number or exceed it, right? And so you look at the guys going around him. Right before him, you've got Saquon, Chris Olave, Drake London, Nico Collins. Everyone but Olave, give me right there, right? And then after him, Devon Achane, Josh Allen, Debo, Travis Etienne. If you want to take quarterback early, I get Josh Allen there. Debo, we'll see what happens with Ayuk. But Achane and Etienne, give me both of them over Kyron for this season, right? I just don't think that he's going to – what he did last year will be repeatable, not only from the fact of just the trend of Rams running backs, but also for the fact that they've just brought in the most efficient and successful running back over the past couple of years in Blake Corum.
Yeah, no, I do expect Kyron Williams' value to fall, especially when training camp really hits. And if he's not there, I think the value of him will fall between now and August 1st here. I mean, you already have the potential injury that he's dealing with, the foot injury, and I don't like running backs who have foot injuries in the offseason because that really will linger through the regular season here, depending on the obvious severity of it, but it's something that is a concern, and everyone's worrying about the Blake Corum situation now that he's going to get work in this offense, which no surprise to Sean McVay, you can't trust him having a starting running back for more than one season since Todd Gurley. So, Williams was great. Don't get me wrong. Williams was great. Very efficient running back. A lot of touchdowns, a lot of receptions. But again, for me, there's concerns with taking him as a round 2 pick there. It's very high for a player who was not very highly talented coming out of college, who got the efficiency and the workload that you would want from a player in an offense here. And I don't think that is going to be the same this year. You have a guy like Matthew Stafford who might see an increase in his production overall with the passing game, which might limit a little bit with Kerryon Williams to some extent. And Corms, like the touchdowns are big for me. I think Williams will keep his reception work, but touchdowns I think might come down a bit for him, which could be a key factor. And taking him in the second round is for me right now. It's just I don't want to do it. I'm really hoping he does fall because I'd love to get him in round 3 or 4, but at least round 3. I think round 2 is just way too rich for my blood. All right. So my player that I have here next is I went to a wide receiver whose name has been a spotlight the last few months in the offseason, and it's Brandon Ayuk. And for me, I think Brandon Ayuk will take a fall. I think if he continues to stay in San Fran, I know like he wants to play, but like the motivation to play may not be the same as I'm going to play for them. I want to play for them. Like there's an issue for me with that, where I think his ADP will drop a little bit from now until the start of training camp. Like I just feel like people aren't going to want to deal with that situation with him in the final year of his contract, knowing that he's going to go to another team. Why find yourself in a situation where you might get hurt? And the offense, I don't know what they plan on doing this year. I don't know if the offense is going to go through Brandon Ayuk. He's got 100 targets in the three straight seasons here now, but they're just over 100 yards. He's not seeing a true wide receiver 1 workload, nor will he if the whole offense stays healthy this season here. And I think they're going to try to run the ball even more than they did last year and get the run game really going so that there's a lot of play action in that offense there. And God forbid if he gets traded. I mean, yeah, love to see him team up with Jaden Daniels in Washington. But again, you have Terry McLaurin that he's like, it's a rookie quarterback in a lesser offense. You moving away from the 49ers offense is a downgrade. And I could see him falling to, he's an early 3rd round pick. He's a 1st round pick, 2nd pick in round 2, 3. That could fall. He could be a late 3rd, early 4th round pick if I expect the way that his offseason negativity is going towards him. I could see him falling very easily in drafts right now.
Yeah, definitely. And it's just kind of the up in the air of, is he going to be with the 49ers and be disgruntled? Is he going to be with the 49ers and get over it and get a contract that he is at least okay signing? Is he going to end up with a new team? Who's that new team going to be? Are they going to have a viable quarterback? Like, there's just a lot of factors into this offseason disgruntled manner that he's been holding, and it scares me from taking him where he's at. I know the talent is definitely there, and if he's in San Francisco and he's happy, then he's going to at least be that, if not exceed it. But there's just so much in the air that if I'm drafting right now, I don't want Brandon Ayuk because he could be a depreciating asset from July 1st to August 1st in a matter of minutes. And so he's a guy that I would expect to fall, even if it's just him being butthurt that he hasn't gotten the contract that he thinks he deserves. But if there's any movement and it's not to the Bills or something, then he's automatically dropping, 5 spots from where he's at least.
Yeah. Unless he ends up with the Bills, you're right. Like, I just don't see his value going any more up at anything, like, based on the players around him. Like, he's a guy that could absolutely fall over the next month of the season. So, all right. And then finally, our last one, ADPs we hate. So give me your ADP, Tyler, that we don't like.
This is a hard one because this is a guy that everyone wants to succeed, including myself. But I'm going to have to go with Garrett Wilson of the New York Football Jets. Wide receiver 8 in the ADP that we looked at, which is 14th overall. So your second pick of the second round. And he's someone that everyone wants to be good. Like, I don't know too many like just genuine Garrett Wilson haters. Everyone wants this guy to succeed.
That's true.
And, the whole thing last year, they finally got Aaron Rodgers. He's going to have a quarterback for the first time in his career. It's going to be great. And then Aaron Rodgers goes out there first play and destroys his Achilles. And so we saw the same Garrett Wilson kind of stereotype. Last year he had 168 targets. Like, you give that to any receiver and they're going to have a great year. And, 1,000-yard season, 3 touchdowns because the Jets couldn't get in the end zone. But we're looking at now his rookie season, he was wide receiver 19 and half PPR. He was wide receiver 32 last year. And with a very old, very questionably healing quarterback coming back, I don't know that I want for this to be the year to buy into Garrett Wilson. I think Aaron Rodgers is a fantastic NFL quarterback. And if he's fully healthy and he's going out there with Garrett Wilson this season, I love Garrett Wilson at this price because he could exceed it. But last I heard, Rodgers was listening to dolphin noises to heal his Achilles. And I'm no doctor. I can barely put a Band-Aid on straight. But I don't think the dolphin noises are going to heal a giant tear like that. And so I have health concerns behind Rodgers on top of the fact that he's just old. He's going to be like, 40, 42 this season?
41.
Yeah, so he's not a young quarterback coming back from this. And so I just don't really trust that Garrett Wilson's going to be the guy. Also, the ADP has changed from when we looked at it earlier. Garrett Wilson is still wide receiver 8, but now he's going at 11th overall. So you're taking him at the end of the first round. And as much as he is a fantastic athlete, as much as everyone wants him to succeed and be amazing, he's just a guy that's stuck in the wrong situation for right now. And he's not a guy that I want to pay, whether it's 11th overall or 14th overall. He's not a guy I want to pay that price for in any way, right? The guys going after him, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jonathan Taylor, Devontae Adams, Marvin Harrison. I don't know how I feel about Devontae Adams, but any of those guys, I trust their situation a little bit more than I do Garrett Wilson. And I can't see happily paying this price. Obviously, I want him to go out and be an outstanding receiver, and I loved him at Ohio State and all the things. But I just can't justify paying a first-round price for a guy who has never exceeded wide receiver 19, albeit with terrible quarterback play.
That's fair. I mean, I think the real thing is, like, when you're looking at this is like, what are you expecting from Garrett Wilson this year? Are you expecting 1,400 yards and 8 touchdowns? Like, is Aaron Rodgers going to make that much? Aaron Rodgers coming off a major injury going to make that much of a difference? And it might, because the quarterback the bar was set so low that it might. But could he end up with 1,100 yards and 4 touchdowns again? Could. Absolutely could. This offense might not need Rodgers to throw the ball. They want to play a lot of defense. Let's not forget Breece Hall and that strong run game is there. And they were just going to say, Rodgers, manage the game. Just manage the game. We don't need you to win us the games. Just manage the games. And that's what they've been at least missing in a quarterback for the Jets, is that they haven't anyone at least to manage the game. Like, they've had quarterbacks to help them lose the game, but not manage it. And at Rodgers' age, at 41, and coming off a major injury, let's not forget that. It might just be more of a game manager where, yeah, Garrett Wilson up 1,100 yards and 5 touchdowns. Sure, that's a solid season. But it's not what we expectation with taking him 8 overall. You're expecting 1,400 yards and 8 touchdowns from him this year. You're buying him at his ceiling, potentially. Because, his best season was his rookie year, and he was wide receiver 19 with 1,100 yards. So, you're taking him a little early. But I get it, though. I get it. People love Garrett Wilson. He's a talent. And everyone's expecting Aaron Rodgers to be the call for Garrett Wilson. But you're taking him at a ceiling price. So, all right. And my last we hate here is Jahmyr Gibbs. RB4, 12th overall. And listen, I love Jahmyr Gibbs, just like Garrett Wilson. But you're taking him in the end of the first round here, a player who, yeah, he's young. He's on a really talented team here. He looked like he was starting to gain traction, potentially maybe away from Dave Montgomery late in the season here last year. But Dave Montgomery still, this offense didn't change at all. If anything, they may have potentially gotten more explosive downfield with bigger plays, which might limit the run game. If Jameson Williams really takes that next step in his development here, who they've been talking about all offseason here, you're looking at a lot of big plays downfield that compared to Josh Reynolds the last few years, if Jameson Williams gets the ball and he has room in front of him, he's going to go. He's going to score that touchdown. He's not going to get tackled at the 1-yard line, allowing the run game to – and they had double-digit touchdowns between the two of them last year. I don't know if they're going to have double-digit touchdowns again between both of them. Both Jahmyr Gibbs and Dave Montgomery both had 10-plus touchdowns. I don't know if they're both going to get 10 touchdowns next year. You sign Dave Montgomery to a decent contract, who is an older player who you're going to probably try to get the most out of. I would assume you're going to use him in that red zone area a little bit more than Jahmyr Gibbs in this offense, who's a slight bit smaller and slimmer. So I like Jahmyr Gibbs. I expect him to have a really good season, but taking him at, again, it's kind of like Garrett Wilson. You're taking him at his top tier ceiling. I mean, I'm slightly concerned that he doesn't finish with, 1,400 yards and 10 touchdowns this year. Like, I don't, and then, the receiving value, like, what is that going to be? Is that going to be 70 receptions this year, 60 receptions? To me, I see him finishing with 1,000 yards, 50 catches, and 8 touchdowns. That's not RB4. That's not the 12th overall player on the board right there. That's a really good player who's probably a top 2 round player, but not in the first round. Like, I think I'd still rather take Jonathan Taylor right now. I think I'd rather still take, Saquon Barkley over him right now. And then I'd probably wait on running backs and go for a lot of these elite wide receivers at that point in round 2. But again, I don't hate Gibbs. I don't know if I really want to draft him at the 12th overall pick. I feel like there's some concerns with that for me.
Yeah. He's definitely a guy in that range that you just talked about with the guys around him, the running backs around him. He's the only guy there with competition, right? Zach Moss technically could have been competition for Jonathan Taylor. He's in Cincy. There's 100 running backs behind Saquon, and none of them have really been anything. But you're chasing the guy with Gibbs, again, at his ceiling, RB4. It would take a lot for him to move above RB4 in terms of finish. Just outright on his own running that backfield. And then you add in the fact that he does have the competition of David Montgomery, who's not a bad running back. Like, we're not just talking about some rookie who is a 5th round pick that just everyone's in love with. Cough, cough, Jalen Wright. But, like, you're pairing him with a good grinder in David Montgomery. And so he's not going to get the lion's share of the touches. Lion's share. I didn't even realize what I was doing there. He's not going to get the lion's share of the touches. He's not going to be this workhorse that we want him to be. As bad as everyone wants to see the explosive Jahmyr Gibbs, we saw him get worked in more and more as the year went on last year. But Dan Campbell has his system, and his system worked, right? Obviously, it didn't take him to a Super Bowl, but for being that first step with the team that they had, that was great. And I think they're going to continue that 50-50. If it's not 50-50, it's going to be 60-40, right? Jahmyr Gibbs is not going to have 85-90% of the touches in this offense. And I think expecting an RB4 season out of someone that's not even going to have more than 2/3 of the touches in the offense, you're just hoping that he scores a touchdown on every play. Because if not, he's not ever going to reach that ceiling for you.
Which they did combinedly. They scored almost every single week between the two of them. Besides 1 week, they combined for a touchdown every single week. But yeah, again, I like Jahmyr Gibbs. I really do like Jahmyr Gibbs. I like to see him grow in the offense. And if David Montgomery was there, I'd say absolutely RB4. Say less. Like that's the guy I want right there. But the fact that David Montgomery's there, and David Montgomery is a good running back, I just have concerns with him overall. And this offense in the passing game, hopefully will take another step on their own there. So yeah, Jahmyr Gibbs, great player, ADP 12th overall. It's a little concerning. So, but that is going to wrap our show up tonight, guys. We hope you guys enjoyed it. A little ADP talk this summer, just kind of get a good feel of where ADP is right now. Obviously, your Scott Fish Bowls are coming in the next week here, so people start getting ADPs ready. Have a lot of fun with that there. Couple things before we get going here. Obviously, if you haven't checked out already, for those Dynasty owners, check out Dynasty Nerds. The Dynasty Nerds GM tool is a fantastic tool to kind of help with your Dynasty needs, help with your league analyzing, and all those cool trade calculators and things that they have going on over there. But again, both me and Coach Tyler work over there, writing for them. So check those things out for us as well. We will be back next Monday. We're going to start getting into our positional previews here. We're going to go through each position, talk about some players that we liked at each position, things like that here. We're going to have a couple guests on over the next few weeks as well. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So tune in next Monday at 6 p.m. once again, talking. We're going to start with quarterbacks. So, Tyler, is there anything you want to say before we get going?
Yeah, like Coach Steve said, check out Dynasty Nerds. Follow us on Twitter. I'm at FF_TJ Hernandez. Like I said, we're a month out from, you can call it real if you want, but 2 teams playing each other with pads on. Real football. And so, we're getting down to the home stretch, getting ready for those redraft leagues. Make sure you're checking us out. Make sure you check out Dynasty Nerds and follow us on Twitter.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. So we appreciate you guys for tuning in tonight, whether you're listening live on our YouTube channel at the Fantasy Coaches, or if you're listening afterwards on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcast. We appreciate it. And again, if you have fantasy questions, please feel free to hit us up either over on Twitter at Coaches Fantasy, or our at our email, thefantasycoaches@gmail.com. We really want to start getting you guys ready for the season here. Some draft questions here. Hit us up. More than happy to answer them. We even will answer them live on the show for you guys as well. So if you want. So we thank you all for listening. Tune in until next time, everyone, and have a good one.
Back to back is not far-fetched. We got a couple of Clark